Go on, then.
Right. Welcome to this historic occasion that is the Marc Radcliffe Show, live from New York. New York.
Yeah.
So good, they named it New York.
Oh, that was poetry, that.
Brilliant. Or the Big Orange, as it's commonly known.
Apple.
Anyway, here we are now, and it's so brilliant. There's all the yellow cabs flying around. There's lots of colourful people. Lots of little ants.
All that
round
little
on the
ants
floor.
nonsense. No one's interested in your snapshot from New York. We're here to do David Bowie exclusive interview.
Then I'll give it a bit of flavour, and as we are now, right up the Empire State Building, looking down, the streets go up.
Empire State. Shut up, will you? Empire
What's wrong
State.
with
A
you?
new creative genius, you. Who else would have thought? Highly original. Let's go to New York. First link up the Empire State Building.
Listen
Brilliant.
to me, you sarky git. Shut your mouths, I'll tell everybody we're on your hotel balcony, right?
Fair enough. Best banger Bowie tune on then, our kid.
Is anybody out there?
And now, live from New York, here's Marc Radcliffe. Great.
Bowie, who you heard first with Suffragette City from the classic 1972 album Ziggy Stardust. And in a couple of minutes, David will be joining me and the jet-lagged boy Lard in the BBC's no-expense padded cell on Broadway to talk about the new album Outside, the American tour that's just kicked off with Nine Inch Nails, art, literature, wallpaper, and why he's always had a better haircut than we have, which in truth is not difficult. So here we are in New York, a city of car horns, blaring constantly as the legendary pathological cabbies let other drivers know when they've committed an unforgivable act, like delaying leaving a green light by a nanosecond, or indicating clearly and then turning that way, or stopping behind a stationary truck. Where every shop is crowned with neon, research has evidently shown that your average tourist, and indeed New Yorker, is incapable of recognising a place that sells pizza unless the building has the word pizza in 10-foot purple neon on the roof. A unique place, a bedazzling place, in some ways a scary place. I'd only been here a matter of hours when my hotel TV flashed up the most unimaginable horrors, an acoustic set from Styx. Anyway, we're here to meet Bowie, and we will after Pulp and Sorted. Now, does this remind you of anyone? Sorted from the current single Misshapes, and as I say, I'm a big fan of Pulp, and it would not be for me to slag them off or accuse them of plagiarism in the slightest, but when I first heard that, I thought that sounds just like David Bowie. So what do you think, David?
Genetic, it's genes. It's got me genes, I think. Genetic fitness.
What do you reckon? I mean, you kind of see the references. I'm all right.
Good.
So, yeah. So how are you? You came direct from 3 Mile Island.
A very real hello from 3 Mile Island.
Right,
They wish you everything that you wish yourself.
I'll bet. So how was that? That was like, how many days are you into this tour?
The gig was actually between 3 Mile Island and the Hershey chocolate factory.
Oh, I've been there. You've been on the little ride. You can go on a little ride on little cars.
I didn't touch anything there, especially not the chocolate.
Right.
You know, sort of.
No, but I've been there. It's of no interest whatsoever. Really.
It was an incredibly uninteresting town.
Was it?
Yes.
Right, okay. In contrast, I mean, like, we're sitting here on Broadway. I mean, obviously you appeared on Broadway when you were doing Elephant Man.
Yeah,
years ago,
1980.
Right. So, have you got a place here, or do you get a bed and breakfast when you hit New York?
Yeah, B&B.
Yeah.
And big B&B.
Yeah.
I think floating around is just the only thing you know on tour.
Right.
I'm just toured out now, and we've just only done 3
started.
gigs. That's what I mean. My attention span is incredibly short.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk loads about the tour and about the new album and all kinds of things. Have you met the boy Lard? Do you know?
Nice to meet you, David.
Very nice to meet you. Let's shake hands.
Absolutely.
He's set all this up, and like, he's obviously he's got aspirations to be an in-depth, serious interview. So I've allowed him one question with you, which we may as well get out of the way first. It's going to be a good one, isn't it? You're not going to embarrass me, are you?
It's a whopper.
Right, go on then. Well, let's
David, what's Barry Bethel really like?
You've been told, haven't you? I'm following the Barry Bethel diet. That's why I'm in such good condition. It's a way of life to me.
I'll drink to that.
Well, what's the significance of Barry Bethel?
Well, he did the adverts, didn't he? And he did the Ziggy
Well, I know
tour. He
that,
introduced David on the Ziggy tour. You just
Barry
don't
used to
understand.
introduce the Ziggy tour in 1972 back in Britain. Yeah, in a teddy boy jacket.
Yeah, blooming heck.
Yeah.
Right, so you got a great start in showbiz, and then you finished up doing adverts on the telly.
Well, Mr. Slimfast.
There you go. You see, there's a showbiz tale. Anyway, right, we're in New York with David Bowie. We'll have the current single from the album, and then we'll get rid of the boy Lard and ask some proper questions. So rifling through and changing all the tracks we've chosen for ones. You change them for longer ones, aren't you? So you get more royalties and that for being on the...
Yeah, because I've always got my eye on, you've got to take care of yourself, you see.
Yeah, you've got to keep a few quid. We're also playing tunes from New York's illustrious heritage from 1978, Patti Smith. On a 7 grain with Sprout, please.
And what would you like, sir?
Could I have an egg bat, please, mate? Easy on the Sprout.
Say what?
Tomato, potato, aluminum, Earth.
From New York, where David's not the only big musical news to hit town. There's also a Bavarian convention going on at the moment, so the streets are awash with bulbous men in lederhosen, mingling with the more commonplace bulbous men in New York Yankees baseball outfits. Those are the outfits in which even lithe young athletes look chubby, so your regular 200-pound deli diner guy looks like a burst sausage. And before Fluffy, you may have heard me and the boy Lard ordering our deli sandwiches, which do indeed seem to feature suspiciously large quantities of sprouts. There's Swiss cheese and sprout, tuna melt and sprout, chopped liver and sprout. And I mean, it's understandable, isn't it? Sprout being, of course, the king of sandwich fillings. I rarely make a butty without a bag of Brussels. Other weird culinary quirks. I've got a glass of orange juice served on a plate with 10 straws. I mean, look, don't ask me. And conclusive proof that Americans not only make up names from bad hands at Scrabble, the newsreader on the telly this morning was called Gilda Unruh, but unnecessary letters appear in words as if by magic. How else do you explain an item on the menu by the name of Boston broiled scrod? That mean anything to you, menswear? Yeah, right. Okay. What do you do? Do you get records sent over when you're on? I mean, because you do keep up with stuff.
No, I know a record shop.
Oh, right, so you do...
I buy a lot. I generally listen to everything all the time.
Right.
I like keeping up with what's going down, you know.
And
not much of it. I mean, you know, you only end up with a couple of things at the end of a year that actually stay with you.
Yeah. So what are the ones
I'll
you've
tell you
done
what
this
I love
year?
this year, I got to admit, is one that never saw the light of day, really, is Scott Walker's Tilt. I thought that was absolutely extraordinary.
Now, I'm a Scott Walker fan, and I couldn't get on with that at all.
Really?
I mean, you know, it was just like, I mean, that is...
There's a couple of skippers there. There's two or three tracks that I would go past, but I thought some of the writing was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I found it a bit scary, that, but perhaps that's not a bad thing. And we were talking about sandwiches before that. I mean, someone has delivered you this, like, enormous, it's a sort of like a skyscraper of a sandwich,
Well,
isn't
this is
it?
a small one.
Is it, right? So, I mean, you're sort of so sylph-like, so are you on the Barry Bethel diet? I mean, you can't eat 10 sandwiches like
Barry
that
said
in a
this
day.
was okay, so turkey's okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's no saturated fats and
Right,
stuff like
okay.
that.
What about you, lad? Have you had any sandwiches recently?
No, just beer,
Yeah,
basically. You know,
right.
just a bit of
They do a
wine,
good beer
just-
sandwich down the road.
Fabulous beer sandwich.
Yeah.
That's what it's known for, isn't it, New York?
Well, it's actually, because it's America, it's beer and sprouts. But it's...
Perfect.
Yeah, essential. Right, we'll have the title track from Davy's new album, and then we'll send Lard out for beer and sprout sandwiches. And I mean, Americans might go for that, because we're talking about like Portishead, who've just won the Mercury Music Prize, and we're getting some bad reviews for their live gigs in the States.
Yes, I think it's tough over here for British bands. It's that they hold a lot of store by touring in the States.
Yeah.
And about working stage and all that, you know, and I think they kind of expect you to deliver, I don't know, but I think it's pretty difficult for some of the newer British bands if maybe they haven't had that much, you know, performance experience behind them.
Well, so like Portishead, I mean, I read some reviews of Oasis from the States, and like the thing they couldn't get their head around, the American audience, was that they stood still.
Yeah.
And so, you know, is that a problem, do you think, for...
Well, it's... yes, I guess it is, isn't it?
That's why Alvin Stardust never cracked.
Well, is it? Almost didn't move much. And we were talking last night with, like, you know, Suede, of course, you're well familiar with them.
I don't know, did they come over here, Suede?
They came in with the Cranberries, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Cranberries did quite well.
Cranberries did quite well, and Suede was supposed to be headlining and didn't do as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we were saying, like, maybe the Americans have never quite gone for that sort of androgynous thing, really.
No, I don't think so. Well, except, well, there again with the newer bands, I think probably people like Trent Reznor, for instance, or Billy out of Smashing Pumpkins.
Right.
There's a kind of a move toward that particular persona, I think.
Right. What were the kind of, we were talking about the kind of records that form the basis of your understanding of American music? What were the albums
first three that really mattered to me of white artists were the Village Thugs, Frank Zappa and the Mothers with Freak Out, and the Velvet Underground first album. Those three really became the nucleus of my listening in the 60s.
It was really sad that Sterling Morrison
that was very sad.
died the other day. Did you see the Velvet Underground when they got back together again and did that
I
tour?
tell you, I saw it even funnier than that. When I very first came over to the States in about 1970, one of the things that happened, I heard the Underground were playing in New York. It was like, this was a magic event for me, and I was all on my own. It was my first trip over here. So I went to see their gig, and during the break, I got to speak to Lou, you know, and I said, oh, great. And I was going on and on about his writing, and he was nodding, and yeah. And then halfway through, he said, look, Lou's actually left the band. I'm Doug Yule, the new singer.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it looked identical to Lou. Yeah. The guy was the spitting image, but it was such a bring down, because I was thinking, he's as good as I thought he was on stage, you know.
Right, okay. We'll talk about your current stage show after we've had a track. Well, interestingly, this is a track from your old pal Brian Eno.
Oh, great.
Brian Brian Eno from Here Come the Warm Jets, and Cindy tells me from 1973. And we were talking to David Bowie while that was on. We were both wishing that Brian Eno would do more songs, do a bit more singing.
I think he's got a great voice. It sounds slightly insane, his voice. He does very good pop songs.
Yeah, I love it when he does that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the other stuff he does as well. I'm not knocking it. I wish he'd do a couple more songs. And also, I didn't know about. I never realised this, that you've got northern roots.
I was just saying to you, I got this really annoying habit that if I'm with somebody from the North Country, that I start lapsing back into that way of talking. Because my father was from Yorkshire and my mother was from Lancashire.
Right.
So if nobody from the North is around, I'm back in London again, and I'm down there. But as soon as, like with Damien first, for instance, he's in the North Country, and he said, I didn't know you came from the North Country. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're talking with the Yorkshire accent. Yeah. I said, I'm sorry. So it's like it's like sitting in a room with me dad, listening to you talking, and I'm just got lapsed back into it.
Slip back in.
It's really odd.
Yeah. Now, this tour you're doing, I mean, I know actually after we finish this show tonight, you're off on the bus to Toronto.
Yeah.
Now, you see, I'm quite surprised. Like, why do you want to go on a coach? Because you have
because he's got no wings.
Well, that's it. You've still got a terrible fear of planes.
I don't like it at all. I mean, I never got easy with it, but I do it. I did stop for about 6 years. I never flew anywhere, and so I had to go everywhere by liner, and well, not on the ground, but when we hit a sea. Yes. But sometimes I didn't know the difference. But now I've gotten back into flying, and I fly now, but I don't like it. I do as little as possible. Right. This tour, you hooked up with 9 Inch Nails. So how did all that come about? Are you a fan of theirs? Are they a fan of yours? I think they're terrific, especially the second album, Downward Spiral. I think that's great. It's. At the beginning, over the last few years, it's been quite noticeable in this country, America, that a lot of the new bands are quite influenced by a lot of the British acts from the early 70s, T-Rex, myself, and Roxy, for instance. Yeah. And Trent particularly was talking a lot about the work that I did and the work that I did with Brian. And so on spec, when Virgin, the record company over, asked me if I would support the album with the tour, I said I'd love to, but I'd like to take someone out with me, and I gave Trent a phone, and he just finished something like a 12-month tour, but said if he only had to do it for 6 weeks, he'd love to do it. So he's on with me, and we're working together on stage as well. It's quite an interesting thing in it, because they do a set, and then there's a sort of transition, isn't there? Yeah, it works. It works so well for both of us. Because the audiences are so entirely different from each other. His is very industrial-oriented, mosh pit, kind of audience, and so we got about a 30-minute spot where we both work together and kind of introduce the audiences to both our ideas that kind of touch it, where we have a kind of a point of common ground. Well, it is quite interesting to see you sometimes doing sort of Jacques Brel torch song singing in front of this mosh pit of industrial goths. It's fantastic. They sort of body surf into Jacques Brel, which is kind of very, very late 20th century, wouldn't you say? Yeah, very deconstructed, post-modernist. Absolutely. Post-ironic. Yeah, post-ironic. Yeah. Live in New York. You're homesick for England occasionally. Where's home? No, well, I'm not. I'll come back and see my friends frequently throughout the year, and in tour, you never really know where you are. I mean, I'm just here all the time now. Right. And I, during the course of the year, Iman and I'd like to spend our time all over Europe and all over America. And what about your son Joe? Because he's at college in the States, isn't he? That's right. Yeah, he's just started his doctorate in philosophy. Whose idea was it to change his name from Zoe back to Joe? I mean, well, actually, it was circumstances. It was at the time I found it a lot easier to attract his attention in a crowd by calling him Joey as opposed to Zoe. Right. People wouldn't because they know Zoe, especially in England, immediately. Yeah. But if I used Joey, it didn't attract attention to him. Yeah. So it's kind of stuck. Right. Yeah. Because you spent quite a lot of time as a single parent, because you did sort of bring him up, didn't you? Yeah. I mean, so was that difficult? Because obviously you had a lot of kind of famous battles against drugs and all kinds of things. So that make it easier or more difficult? No, we've had. I mean, the thing is, we never really had a kind of. I guess you'd call it a celebrity type life. Joe was never exposed to all that. Yeah. Because I've actually lived quite quietly, believe it or not. Yeah. And so he's not had to go through that as much. Maybe some of the children of my contemporaries or whatever have had to go through different things, but it's been a pretty regular life. I mean, was there a time when you did? Because you sort of look back over some of the albums in the 80s and said, actually, I must hold my hands up now and say, actually, some of them really weren't that good. There's two there that I've always been disappointed with, and it's partly because of my indifference towards making them. I was really feeling kind of I wasn't friendly with music anymore after Let's Dance. I didn't like that period. That whole period for me was one of the really depressing periods artistically, and so I have big problems with Tonight and Never Let Me Down. But Of the 25 or so albums I have made, those are the only two that I'm not too keen on.
I mean, did you ever feel like the knack of writing songs had deserted you?
No,
wasn't it?
just lack of wanting to bother.
Right. Why was that then? What was it?
Because I felt I was in the mainstream.
Right.
And I felt, well, I'm going to be locked in here. I'm going to have to please people and all that. You know, I fell foul of that. But when I then decided just to please myself again, everything started going okay again.
Did you ever come close to jacking it in totally?
Not really. I don't think I'd ever do that. But I did do a lot more sort of visual arts instead. I painted and sculpted a lot during the 80s, as opposed to doing music.
I mean, so what did you do to get back into that? I mean, it's sort of like, in a way, you become very vulnerable because you're almost like, instead of trusting your instincts, you start to look for a direction and, okay, you may sort of like latch onto some industrial thing. You know, you could hear Bavarian Oompa one day and think, oh, I'll do that.
I think so. I think that is a danger. But fortunately, I got friendly with a guy called Reeves Gabrels, who's now my guitar player.
Yeah.
It's almost on a permanent basis. In the mid to late 80s, about 87, 88, we kind of hit stuff. And at that point, he was a godsend, really, because Reeves, he sort of said, you know, what you're really best at and what everybody enjoys about what you do is when you get experimental and just kind of follow your own nose about what you should be doing. And he sort of got me into that frame of mind again, I guess. Plus my own dissatisfaction with what I was doing. And that's when we formed Tin Machine, precisely to do that, to break down all idea of what it was that I was. And so I kind of, from that point, everything I've done from that point, with Tin Machine included, is work that I really stand by and really adore.
Marc Radcliffe, missing you already.